A week had passed since the gate had closed. The forest returned to its normal rhythm. The birds sang again, the river flowed quietly, and the morning breeze carried the smell of pine and wet soil. To an ordinary eye, nothing seemed different, but to Ravi, everything had changed. He stood at the same spot where the strange rock had once rested. Now it was just a small clearing covered with grass and sunlight, yet he could still feel something in the air, something faint and unseen, as if the forest was whispering. Mira and Tane joined him later that morning. Both looked tired but calm. They had spent the last few days making reports, giving simple explanations to their department. Of course, they could not mention glowing creatures or gates from another world. They only said they had discovered a strange energy source in the mountains that caused strange sounds and light patterns. When they arrived, Ravi said quietly, "It feels strange, doesn't it? It's peaceful now. But I still feel that the forest is watching us." Mira smiled slightly. "Maybe it is. Maybe it remembers what happened here." Tane looked around and asked, "Do you think Leon is still nearby?" Ravi nodded slowly. "She said she would stay until she is sure the gate is sealed forever. I think she is somewhere close, maybe watching from the shadows." They stood in silence for a while. Then, from behind the trees, a soft light appeared. It was faint and silver, moving slowly toward them. Leon stepped out, her long gray coat covering her shining skin. She looked stronger now, though her eyes still carried a deep sadness. "It is good to see you again," Ravi said. Leon smiled. "The gate is sleeping now. The earth has healed faster than I expected." "Your world's energy is strong," Mira asked. "Does that mean everything is safe now?" Leon nodded. "For now, yes. But there is something else I must tell you. When I stopped the signal in the mountains, I felt another presence. A second machine far deeper underground. It is quiet but not dead," Ravi frowned. "You mean there is another one?" "Yes," she said. "It was made long before even my people came here. I do not know who built it. It feels older, as if it belongs to something that existed before time remembered names." Tane looked uneasy. "Do you think it could wake up too?" Leon looked at the sky. "If the earth shakes again, or if someone disturbs that place, yes, it could. That is why I cannot leave yet." Ravi felt a chill. "Then we should find it. If there is danger under this forest, we can't ignore it." Leon gave a slow nod. "You are brave, Ranger. But the path below is not like the forest above. It is a world of stone and silence. I can guide you, but once we go, there will be no turning back until we find it." Mira and Tane exchanged glances. They both knew the risk, but they also knew that if they ignored it, the world might face something far worse. Ravi said firmly, "Then we go together." Before leaving, they packed ropes, flashlights, food, and first aid kits. Leon carried a small crystal device that glowed softly, saying it could guide them toward the hidden machine. As the sun began to set, they followed her deep into the forest. They reached a rocky slope covered with moss. There, hidden behind thick vines, was a dark cave opening. Cold air blew from inside. Leon touched the vines and they moved aside slowly, revealing the entrance fully. "This is the path," she said. "It goes deep below the earth. The machine lies somewhere near the heart of the mountain." They turned on their flashlights and entered. The air was damp and smelled of earth. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing softly. Their steps made crunching sounds on the gravel floor. As they went deeper, the light from outside faded, replaced by the glow of Leon's crystal. Hours passed. The path twisted and turned through narrow tunnels and large chambers. Strange symbols were carved into the stone walls. Some glowed faintly as if reacting to Leon's presence. Ravi ran his hand over one of the carvings. "Who made these?" Leon looked at it closely. "Not my kind. These are older, much older. Whoever made them understood the power of the earth." The tunnel widened into a large underground hall. In the center stood a massive circular door made of black metal. It had the same carvings as the walls, but these pulsed with slow light. Leon walked forward and placed her hand on the door. "It is here. The second machine sleeps behind this door. Its energy is still weak, but I can feel it trying to wake." Tane looked uneasy. "Can you stop it like you did with the tower?" Leon shook her head. "No, this one cannot be stopped the same way. It needs to be sealed from within. Someone must go inside and connect with its core." Ravi asked, "Can you do it?" She looked down. "I can, but the energy inside may trap me. Once I connect, I may not return." The Rangers were silent. Mira stepped forward. There must be another way. Leon smiled sadly. There is not. But do not worry. I was born for this purpose. My life was meant to guard these gates, and if closing this one means peace for your world, then it is worth it. Ravi felt a tightness in his chest. He wanted to argue, but he could see the determination in her eyes. Then we will help you as much as we can. Leon nodded. You already have. She placed the crystal device into a slot on the door. It began to hum softly. The carvings lit up brighter and the ground shook slightly. The door opened slowly with a deep rumble. A bright silver light came from inside, almost too strong to look at. Leon turned to them one last time. Thank you for trusting me. Whatever happens next, remember that your courage saved more than just your forest. It saved worlds. Ravi wanted to stop her, but she stepped inside before he could move. The door began to close again. The light grew brighter, then faded completely as the door sealed shut. The hum stopped and the air became still. For a long time they stood in silence. None of them spoke. Then slowly the carvings on the door changed color from blue to gold. Mira whispered, "She did it." Ravi touched the cold surface of the door. She gave everything to protect this world. As they turned to leave, the crystal that had guided them floated from the ground and stopped in front of Ravi. It glowed gently, as if carrying a small piece of Leon's energy. Ravi took it carefully and placed it in his pocket. When they came out of the cave, the night sky was clear and full of stars. The wind moved softly through the trees, carrying a peaceful sound. It felt as if the forest was breathing freely again. Mira looked at the horizon. Do you think we'll ever see her again? Ravi smiled faintly. Maybe not in the same form, but she's here. The forest is alive because of her. They stood quietly watching the stars. The world looked calm, but they knew that beneath the soil lay secrets older than time. Leon had become part of that mystery now, a guardian who would forever protect the balance between worlds. As dawn touched the forest, Ravi walked back toward the ranger station with Mira and Tanay. The birds sang once more, and the air was bright with new light. Somewhere deep under the mountains, a faint silver glow shimmered within the sealed chamber. It was not a warning this time, but a promise of peace. And though no one could see her, Leon watched over them still, guarding both her lost home and the world that had become her new one. The forest lived. The gate slept, and the park rangers never forgot the day they heard cries from inside a rock. Ravi stood on the edge of his wide, quiet property and watched a group of strangers build a fence. The sun was high and the sound of power tools filled the air. He had lived on this land for years, long before anyone had built the new houses nearby. The air smelled of fresh paint and cut wood. It should have been peaceful, but the sound of shouting broke that calm. A woman in a bright pink shirt marched toward him. Her short hair bounced as she moved, and her expression was filled with anger. She pointed her finger at him as if he had committed a serious crime. "What are you doing here?" she yelled. "This is private property. You can't stand there. You're trespassing." Ravi blinked, confused. He looked at the patch of land under his boots. It was his own field, the same one he had owned for 10 years. He replied calmly, "Ma'am, this is my land. I've lived here since long before those houses were built." The woman gave him a sharp laugh. "Don't try that story with me. This is part of Maple Creek HOA. I'm on the board. I know every homeowner here. You're not one of them." Ravi stayed quiet for a moment. He wanted to laugh at the misunderstanding, but decided to stay polite. "My house is just behind those trees," he said, pointing to his small farmhouse. "I've been here since 2009. Maybe you should check your maps." The woman folded her arms and glared. "You can't fool me. I've seen people like you before. Trying to use HOA land for your personal stuff. You can't be here without permission," Ravi sighed. "Can you tell me your name, Karen?" she said proudly. "I'm the head of the Maple Creek HOA board. You're lucky I caught you before I called the police." He smiled slightly. "Karen, I think you made a mistake. The HOA doesn't own this part. The boundary line ends right before that oak tree. I own everything from there to the river." Karen rolled her eyes. "We'll see about that." She turned and waved her phone at another man across the street. "Tom, get over here. We have a trespasser." Tom, a tall man with sunglasses, jogged over. "What's going on?" he asked. Karen spoke loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "This man is trespassing on HOA property. Says he owns the land. Can you believe that?" Ravi stayed calm, though he felt embarrassed by the growing attention. Several residents had stopped to watch. "Tom," he said, "maybe you can look at your property map." The county office has the boundary records. This land was never part of your HOA. Tom pulled out his phone. I can check that, he said hesitantly. Karen, maybe let's confirm before we call anyone. Karen frowned. You don't need to check. I've lived here for 5 years. I know where the property starts. But Tom ignored her and searched for the land record online. His expression slowly changed. Wait a minute. It looks like this section isn't registered under the HOA's control. It's under someone named Ravi Singh. Karen's mouth fell open. That can't be right. Ravi nodded. That's me. So please stop building your fence here. You're putting it on my land. Tom scratched his head. Karen, he's right. It shows clear as day. The HOA boundary ends before the oak tree. His property begins after that. Karen looked from Tom to Ravi, anger growing on her face. That map must be old. We maintain this area. We clean it. It belongs to the HOA now. Ravi shook his head. That's not how ownership works. I never sold it. I pay taxes on it every year. Karen's face turned red. This is ridiculous. No one told me there was a random man living behind our neighborhood. I'm not random, Ravi said patiently. I've lived here long before your houses were built. The developers bought land next to mine, not mine itself. She turned sharply and shouted to the workers, Keep building. I'll handle him. The workers stopped and looked uncertain. Ravi stepped forward. Please stop, he said firmly. You can't build on my land. If you continue, I'll have to contact the county office. Karen pointed at him again. You think you can threaten me, we'll see who wins this. I have the entire HOA behind me. Tom spoke up again. Karen, maybe we should just talk to the developer before we make any more moves. But she ignored him. She stormed away, still muttering about trespassers and land thieves. Ravi watched her leave, feeling both angry and amused. He had seen many kinds of people, but this was new. He walked back toward his farmhouse, shaking his head. His small dog ran to greet him, wagging its tail. He bent down and patted it, saying softly, Looks like we have trouble, buddy. That evening, he opened his old file cabinet and pulled out his land documents. Yellow papers filled with signatures and stamps proved his ownership. He had inherited this property from his father, who had bought it from a local farmer decades ago. As he read the documents, he remembered the day construction started next door. The developers had promised that they would stay within their purchased area. He had trusted them. But now, with this HOA woman shouting about trespassing, things had changed. Later that night, Ravi received a call from a friend at the county office. The man said, Hey, I just got a message from some HOA group asking for a copy of your land deed. What's going on? Ravi explained the whole situation. His friend laughed softly. Typical HOA drama. Don't worry. You're on the legal side. Just keep your documents safe. The next morning, Ravi woke up to the sound of car horns. When he stepped outside, he saw several people standing on the road holding papers. Karen was among them, talking loudly. She shouted, We're going to settle this. We have our lawyer looking into it. Ravi calmly walked over. That's fine, he said. I'll bring my papers too. She gave a tight smile. You'll see that you're wrong. He smiled back. We'll see. The neighbors looked uncomfortable. Some whispered among themselves, realizing the argument might not go the way Karen expected. One man whispered to another, If he really owns the land, this could get messy for the HOA. Over the next few days, rumors spread across the neighborhood. Some residents felt embarrassed by Karen's behavior. Others supported her, believing the HOA had full control. Ravi stayed calm and waited. He visited the county office to get certified copies of his ownership papers. When he came back, he placed them neatly on his kitchen table. He knew that soon there would be a meeting, and he would finally show them all who really owned the land they were standing on. As the sun set behind the trees, he looked out from his porch. The wind carried the faint noise of children playing in the new neighborhood. He sighed and said to himself, All I wanted was peace. But now I'll have to fight for what's already mine. The next week, the air around Maple Creek neighborhood was filled with whispers and tension. Everyone had heard about the argument between Ravi and Karen. Some said Ravi was a clever liar trying to take over land. Others said the HOA had made a big mistake. The truth was about to come out, but until then, no one knew who to believe. Karen moved through the neighborhood with pride. She told anyone who would listen that she was preparing an official HOA meeting to settle the trespassing issue. She walked from door to door, handing out printed notices. The paper had bold letters that read, Emergency HOA meeting. Attendance required. When Ravi received his copy, he smiled calmly. He placed the notice on his table and said to himself, "Good. Now everything will be cleared." On the evening of the meeting, cars lined both sides of the street near the Maple Creek clubhouse. People filled the room, chatting in low voices. Karen stood at the front wearing her pink shirt again and holding a folder filled with documents. She looked confident and sure of herself. Tom sat beside her, looking a little nervous. When Ravi entered, the room grew quiet. Some faces turned away, others watched curiously. Karen looked at him as if he had walked into the wrong place. "Oh, look who came," she said in a cold tone. "The man who thinks he owns HOA property." Ravi kept a gentle smile. "Good evening, everyone. I just came to clear up this confusion." Karen raised her hand toward the group. "Before he starts, I want everyone to know that the HOA board takes property rights very seriously. This man claims to own the land behind our houses, but our maps show it's part of our maintenance area. We have every right to build our fence there." Several heads nodded. One elderly woman whispered, "He doesn't even live in our neighborhood. Why is he here?" Ravi took a deep breath and said, "Ma'am, I'm not a part of your HOA because my property is not under your association. I have lived there for over 15 years. I pay taxes for that land. I have the original documents with me." Karen folded her arms. "Anyone can print papers and call them real. I have HOA blueprints that say otherwise." Tom cleared his throat. "Maybe we should let both sides show their papers." "That's fair." Karen gave him a sharp look but agreed. "Fine, go ahead." Ravi opened his folder and placed several papers on the table. They were old but well kept, with clear stamps from the county office. "This is the purchase record from 2009, he said. "It shows I bought the land directly from the previous owner. Here is the latest tax statement under my name, and this is the official boundary map from the county's GIS system. You can see the line stops before your HOA area starts." Tom leaned forward to check. He compared it to the digital map on his tablet. After a few seconds, he looked up. "It matches the county record perfectly." Karen frowned. "That's not possible. The developer told us the HOA owned everything up to the river." Ravi nodded. "Developers sometimes make mistakes, but ownership is decided by records, not words." The room went quiet. People started murmuring among themselves. A young woman in the back raised her hand and said, "So you're saying the land our fence is on belongs to you?" "Yes," Ravi replied. "And I didn't mind the fence at first, but when your workers started digging near my trees, I had to step in." Karen slammed her folder shut. "This is unbelievable. You're trying to take land that our HOA has cared for since it was built." "I'm not taking anything," Ravi said calmly. "I'm only asking you not to take mine." Tom rubbed his forehead. "Karen, we might have to contact the county office for confirmation. If he's right, we could get in trouble for building on private land." Karen turned red. "No, we'll handle this our way." "I don't trust this man's papers." One of the residents spoke up. "Karen, maybe we should listen. If the county says it's his, we can't just ignore that." Karen glared at them. "You're all forgetting that I've been managing this HOA for years. I know this place better than anyone." Ravi stayed silent and let her talk. He knew the truth didn't need to be shouted. When she finally stopped, he took out one last paper. "This is the county's recent email reply. I asked them to verify my ownership. You can read it." Tom took the paper and read it aloud. "It says the property located behind Maple Creek Development remains under the legal ownership of Mr. Ravi Singh and is not included in the HOA boundary." Gasps filled the room. Karen's face went pale. Tom looked at her gently. "Karen, this seems very clear." Karen shook her head. "No, there must be a mistake." "We'll appeal," Ravi nodded. "You can, but please stop building until then. Your workers already cut some of my trees. If this continues, I'll have to report it." Tom stood up and said, "Meeting adjourned. We'll contact the county and the developer for official confirmation." People began to leave, whispering as they passed. Some apologized quietly to Ravi. One man stopped and said, "Sorry about the misunderstanding. Karen can be a bit strong sometimes." Ravi smiled. "No hard feelings. I just want peace." Outside, the night air was cool. The sound of crickets filled the silence as Ravi walked back to his car. He looked back once and saw Karen standing by the door, staring at him with anger and confusion. The next morning, Ravi received a call from Tom. "Ravi, we spoke with the county office this morning. They confirmed again that your land is not part of our HOA. I told Karen, but she isn't taking it well. Ravi replied softly. I expected that. She'll calm down eventually, but Karen did not calm down. Instead, she began knocking on doors again, claiming Ravi had used tricks to get false papers. She spread rumors that he wanted to build something on the land to lower the neighborhood's value. Soon, strangers began walking near his property, taking photos of his house. One day, someone left a letter in his mailbox with no name saying, "Sell your land or move out." Ravi read it, sighed, and placed it on his desk. He refused to be scared. That afternoon, he called the county office again and requested a legal boundary inspection. 2 days later, a small team arrived with official vests and equipment. They measured the area and placed new boundary markers in the ground. One marker stood right where the HOA's new fence was built. The inspector turned to Ravi and said, "You were right. That fence is 3 feet inside your property line." Karen came rushing out of her house when she saw the inspectors. "What are you doing here?" she shouted. The inspector replied, "Ma'am, we're verifying land boundaries. This section belongs to Mr. Singh." Karen stood speechless. Her eyes darted from the marker to the fence. The residents who had gathered nearby watched in silence. Ravi thanked the inspectors and said, "Now there's no confusion." That evening, as the sun set, Ravi sat on his porch again. He knew this wasn't over. Karen's pride wouldn't let her stop so easily. But now he had proof, and the truth was on his side. He looked at the glowing lights from the neighborhood houses and whispered to himself, "They built on my land, but they'll learn respect before this ends." He leaned back, watching the stars appear one by one. The battle had just begun, but Ravi was ready for whatever came next. The next few days turned into a quiet storm. Ravi tried to continue his daily routine, but the neighborhood around him was buzzing with tension. Every time he stepped outside, he could feel the eyes of the HOA members watching him. Some waved politely, others turned their faces away. The fence, which stood crookedly across the edge of his land, now looked like a line drawn in challenge. One morning, Ravi was fixing a broken piece of his gate when a white car stopped in front of his house. Karen stepped out, holding a folder and wearing dark sunglasses. Her expression was cold and serious. "We need to talk," she said flatly. Ravi wiped his hands on a towel. "About what?" She opened her folder. "The HOA board has decided to offer you compensation for that small piece of land behind our houses. We're willing to buy it at a fair price so we can fix the fence issue peacefully." Ravi raised an eyebrow. "You want to buy the land now?" Karen nodded. "Yes, it's a practical solution. You don't even use that area. The HOA can maintain it better." Ravi crossed his arms. "I appreciate the offer, but that land isn't for sale." "It's part of my family property." Karen's voice hardened. "You're being unreasonable. You're making this harder for everyone. Do you really want to live next to a neighborhood that doesn't like you?" Ravi looked her in the eyes. "I'm not here to be liked or disliked. I'm here because this land is mine." Karen slammed her folder shut. "Then don't say I didn't warn you." She got back into her car and drove off. Ravi stood there wondering what kind of trouble she meant. The next week proved his concern right. Every day, new problems appeared near his boundary. One morning, his mailbox was broken. The next day, his trash bins were tipped over. Once, he found tire tracks across his front yard. He didn't want to blame anyone without proof, but he knew these were not accidents. One evening, he heard shouting near the fence line. When he walked over, he saw 2 HOA workers cutting the tall grass near his oak tree. He called out, "Stop, you're on my land." One of them replied, "Karen told us to clean this area. She said it's part of the HOA's maintenance zone." Ravi took out his phone and started recording. "Then please tell her she's violating property law. The county markers are right there." The workers looked uneasy. One of them whispered to the other, "We don't want trouble. Let's go." They packed their tools and left. That night, Ravi uploaded the video to a local community page with a short caption, "When your neighbors can't accept boundaries." Within hours, the post got dozens of comments. Some supported him, saying he was right to defend his land. Others sided with Karen, calling him stubborn. The next morning, Karen came storming down the road again, holding her phone. "You posted that video to make me look bad," she shouted. Ravi stayed calm. "I only showed what happened. People can decide for themselves," Karen glared. You think you can embarrass me online? I'll show you what happens when someone crosses the HOA. Ravi didn't reply. He simply walked away. A few days later, Ravi received a letter in the mail from the HOA board. It accused him of violating community appearance standards. The letter claimed that his fence and yard did not meet the HOA's visual rules and demanded that he make changes. Within 10 days, he laughed when he read it. They don't even control this land, but they want to fine me. He decided to visit the county office again. There, he met a clerk who recognized him. "Oh, it's you again," the man said with a friendly smile. "How's the HOA trouble going?" Ravi handed him the letter. "They sent this. Can they really do that?" The clerk shook his head. "No. They have no authority outside their boundary. You can ignore it, but if they keep bothering you, you can file a harassment report." Ravi thanked him and returned home. But when he reached his driveway, he noticed a group of residents standing near the fence. Karen was in the center holding a paper in her hand. She looked at him with a smirk. "We've decided to replace this fence entirely. It's an HOA project and it will continue with or without your approval." Ravi took a deep breath. "If you build on my land again, I'll take legal action." "I already have video proof and county reports." Karen crossed her arms. "You think you can scare us with that? You'll regret this." Tom, who was standing nearby, finally spoke. "Karen, maybe we shouldn't push this further. He has every right to his property." Karen snapped at him. "Stay out of this, Tom. You've been too soft since the start." Ravi watched them argue for a moment, then walked back toward his house. He didn't want to fight, but he knew the situation was only getting worse. That evening, he sat on his porch with a notebook. He began writing down every incident, every date, and every photo he had taken. He planned to build a full record. His quiet life had turned into a battle, and he wanted to make sure every move was documented. 3 days later, the county office sent a letter confirming the property lines again, this time with an official seal. It clearly showed that part of the HOA fence and a small portion of their park were built on Ravi's land. When Karen received a copy, she was furious. She called for another emergency HOA meeting. At the meeting, voices rose and fingers pointed. Some members said they should apologize to Ravi and remove the fence. Others accused Karen of mishandling the situation. Tom stood up and said, "We can't keep fighting him. The county has spoken. We're in the wrong." Karen slammed her hand on the table. "So we just give up?" One woman replied. "Yes, before he sues us." Karen's face turned red. "No, we'll make him give up." Ravi didn't attend the meeting, but by the next morning he could feel the shift. The neighbors had stopped greeting him entirely. When he walked to his mailbox, people turned their backs. His peace had disappeared. That afternoon, Karen showed up again, this time with a man in a suit. "This is our lawyer," she said. "We're filing a claim to review your property records. You might have false paperwork." Ravi didn't show anger. "You can file what you want. The law will decide." The lawyer stayed silent, avoiding eye contact. Karen, however, looked satisfied. When they left, Ravi called his own attorney. He explained everything from the start. The attorney listened patiently and then said, "You have strong evidence. Don't worry. We'll file a counterclaim for property interference and damages." Ravi thanked him and hung up. He looked out at the land his father once farmed and felt a mix of sadness and pride. This fight wasn't just about boundaries. It was about respect and truth. That evening, he received an unexpected visitor. Tom arrived quietly without his usual confident look. He held a small envelope in his hand. "Ravi," he said softly, "I thought you should see this." Inside was a copy of the original development agreement for Maple Creek. Tom pointed to one line that read, "The property adjacent to the northern edge remains privately owned and excluded from HOA authority." Ravi looked up. "So they always knew." Tom nodded. Karen did, but she didn't want to admit it. She thought if the HOA acted like it owned the land, you'd give up eventually. Ravi clenched his fists. "That explains everything." Tom sighed. "I'm sorry, Ravi. I didn't agree with her, but I couldn't stop her either. I think she's in too deep now." Ravi placed the paper on his table. "Thank you, Tom. You did the right thing." Tom left quietly and Ravi sat alone under the warm light of his porch. He looked at the boundary markers glowing faintly in the moonlight. He knew the fight was about to reach its final stage. He whispered to himself, "They tried to take my land. Now they'll face the truth in front of everyone." The next chapter of this quiet war was about to begin. and this time Ravi would no longer stay patient. A cold morning breeze passed through Maple Creek as Ravi prepared for what he knew would be a long day. The lawyer had called the night before, telling him that the case was ready to move forward. The HOA had officially filed a complaint, claiming that his land documents were false. Ravi's lawyer had replied with a counterclaim, demanding that the HOA remove the fence and pay for the damage done to his property. As the sun rose, Ravi stood outside his small farmhouse looking at the land that had caused so much conflict. The soil, the trees, and even the small stream near the edge all carried the memories of his father and years of hard work. He took a deep breath and said quietly, "I'm ready." When he arrived at the county courthouse, he saw several HOA members gathered outside. Karen stood at the center, dressed neatly, her expression confident as always. She held a stack of papers in her hand and was talking to their lawyer. When she noticed Ravi, she gave a cold smile. "You still have time to sell the land," she said. "If you do it now, we can avoid all this trouble." Ravi replied calmly, "This isn't about selling. It's about truth," Karen shrugged. "Truth is what the court decides." Inside the courtroom, the air was heavy with silence. The judge, an older man with kind but sharp eyes, sat at the front. Ravi and his lawyer took their seats on one side, while Karen and the HOA lawyer sat on the other. Several residents had come to watch, whispering quietly among themselves. The judge began, "We are here to resolve the property ownership dispute between Mr. Ravi Singh and the Maple Creek Homeowners Association." The HOA lawyer stood first. "Your Honor, the HOA believes that Mr. Singh's land documents are outdated and possibly fraudulent. The area in question has been maintained by the HOA since the community was built. We request that it be officially added to the HOA property line." Ravi's lawyer rose calmly. "Your Honor, my client has owned this land since 2009. We have certified records from the county showing legal ownership. The HOA has built a fence and park equipment on his property without permission. We request that the court order the HOA to remove their structures and compensate Mr. Singh for damages." The judge nodded. "We will hear both sides." Karen was the first witness. She spoke with confidence, her voice loud and steady. "When we moved into Maple Creek, we were told that the land behind our homes was part of the community area. The HOA has always maintained it. We even planted trees and installed benches there. Mr. Singh appeared one day and claimed it belonged to him. I believe this is a misunderstanding caused by old paperwork." The judge turned to Ravi's lawyer. "You may question the witness." Ravi's lawyer smiled politely. "Mrs. Karen, you said the HOA was told that land was community property. Who told you that?" "The developer," she answered. "Do you have a written document from the developer stating that?" Karen hesitated. "No, but everyone knows that's how it was." The lawyer nodded. "So it was verbal, not written. Did you ever check the county records before building the fence?" Karen looked uncomfortable. "We trusted the developer's word." The lawyer showed her a printed copy of the county boundary map. "This is from the county's current record. It clearly marks Mr. Singh's property line. Do you see that?" Karen stared at it silently. The lawyer continued, "You also received a letter from the county 2 weeks ago confirming this boundary, correct?" Karen nodded slowly. "Yes, but I still think there's an error." "No further questions," the lawyer said, sitting down. Then it was Ravi's turn to speak. He stood and walked to the front. The judge looked at him kindly. "Mr. Singh, please explain your side." Ravi took a deep breath. "Your Honor, my father bought this land many years ago and I inherited it after he passed away. I built my house here and have lived quietly ever since. When the HOA neighborhood was built, the developer's land stopped right before my boundary. I never joined their association. I pay taxes on my land every year. I didn't want conflict. But when they started building the fence and cutting my trees, I had to protect what's mine." The judge nodded thoughtfully. "Do you have documents to support your claim?" Ravi's lawyer handed over a folder with official seals, tax receipts, and the county's letter confirming ownership. The judge took time to review each page. After a few moments, the judge looked up. "These documents are valid and up to date." The HOA lawyer tried one last move. "Your Honor, even if Mr. Singh owns the land, the HOA has improved and maintained it for years. That should grant them partial control." The judge shook his head. "Maintenance does not override ownership. The law is clear." Karen looked stunned. She whispered something to her lawyer, but he stayed quiet. The room fell silent again. The judge spoke clearly. After reviewing the evidence, it is proven that the disputed land legally belongs to Mr. Ravi Singh. The Maple Creek HOA has no authority over it. The HOA is ordered to remove any fences or structures that lie within Mr. Singh's boundary within 30 days and must pay for any damage caused. Gasps filled the courtroom. Karen's face went pale and her hands trembled. Ravi closed his eyes and let out a slow breath. His lawyer patted him on the shoulder. Karen stood quickly. "This isn't fair. We've spent money on that park. We deserve compensation." The judge replied firmly, "You built on private property without permission. You will not receive compensation. You will comply with the removal order." She sat down, her pride crushed. The residents behind her began whispering again. Some shook their heads at her, realizing how wrong she had been. After the session ended, Ravi walked out quietly. The morning sun felt warmer than before. Tom caught up to him outside the courthouse. "Ravi," Tom said, "I'm glad justice was done. I tried to stop her, but she wouldn't listen." Ravi smiled. "It's over now. I hope she learned something from this." Tom sighed. "She won't admit it, but she's embarrassed. The whole neighborhood knows the truth now." Over the next few days, things changed quickly at Maple Creek. Workers came to remove the fence. The HOA board held a meeting to discuss Karen's position. Many residents were angry about the trouble she caused. At the meeting, one resident stood up and said, "Karen, you made us look bad. You wasted money and time on something that wasn't even ours." Karen tried to defend herself, but no one wanted to hear it. By the end of the meeting, she resigned from the HOA board and walked out without saying a word. When the fence was finally removed, Ravi stood by the edge of his property watching the workers pack their tools. The air felt peaceful again. The oak tree, which had been half hidden behind the fence, now stood free and proud. Tom walked over and said, "Looks like it's finally done." Ravi smiled softly. "Yes, it's strange how something so small caused so much trouble." Tom laughed. Karen thought she could control everything. She forgot that truth doesn't bend to rules. Ravi nodded. Maybe now everyone will understand that boundaries are not walls. They're respect. That night, he sat on his porch under the stars, feeling the calm that had been missing for weeks. The sound of the wind rustled through the trees. His dog lay beside him, sleeping peacefully. Ravi looked toward the neighborhood lights and said quietly, "All I ever wanted was peace. And now it's finally back." He leaned back in his chair, watching the sky above him. The battle was over, but the lesson would stay in Maple Creek for years to come. People would remember the quiet man who stood firm and proved that truth, patience, and respect were stronger than pride and control.